Do you know how powerful you are?
Welcome to RiseUrbanNation.
Welcome everybody to RiseUrbanNation.
Reshaping and elevating your mindset to help you achieve what you believe.
Sometimes we don't even see our own greatness. You can't be what you can't see.
And connecting Black cultures to build a community of talent and success.
Black people need to realize that they are assets. You are an asset.
When we rise, you rise.
Come together as a group.
This is RiseUrbanNation with Terrell Simmons.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Risepreneurs. This next guest, Uti, I'm going to just call her Nigeria's next Oprah. How about that? I had an amazing conversation with her. She's in the media space. We had an amazing conversation about failure, overcoming failure, and how failure kind of could be a hindrance in your life, being true to yourself. We went off topic for a little bit on a tangent about currency, and then looking at how that affects and shapes Africa as a whole, the economy, but enjoyed my conversation with her thoroughly. Without further ado, let's just jump into the episode. Uti, ladies and gentlemen.
Technical difficulties can and will happen, but the show must go on.
Exactly. The show must go on.
Try doing this when you're live. This has happened to me before.
Man.
On live TV. I had guests who were on connected remotely via Zoom. They couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear them. I'm in a studio on my own, looking at a screen, live on TV, and we can't hear each other.
Wow.
It was like, I was like, we will be right back. We're going to take a short ad break, and we'll be right back. And then come back. Thank you for staying with us. I'm so sorry we're having technical difficulties, but the show must go on. I think we've got it sorted now. Let's get our guests back on and get the conversation going. Hi, are you there? Can you hear me? Oh, no, it looks like we still have technical difficulties. It is a day. We will be right back on another short break. Please stay with us.
Oh, my goodness.
You literally got to keep smiling like, yep. Conversations coming, I promise. In a 1 hour show, I think I finally got the guest on about 42 minutes into a 1 hour show.
So what did you talk about for 42 minutes?
Literally was just talking about the topic, talking about some parts of the script, giving my own opinion. Oh, looks like we've got it sorted. Let's take a quick break. We'll try it and we'll be right back. And then you come back. It doesn't work. You talk a little bit. You go back to an ad break. You come back. You try again. Yeah.
Man, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
But you seem like a pro. You seem like you just take it all in stride.
You got to keep smiling. That's why you kind of have to look all pretty so that at least people like what they're looking at. Live TV has taught me to just keep talking, keep smile,
talking, just keep rolling,
smile, and keep going. You know, as soon as the red light's on, camera is live. Woohoo! We're talking.
Just out of curiosity, can you see me now, or is it still blank?
I can't. It's still a nice T on the screen.
All right. I couldn't tell because the way you look at the camera, you're looking as and I guess that's your training.
That's once the light's on, face the camera. No matter what happens, I'm talking to the camera. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, you already know the premise of the show, so we'll get diving into the interview. Welcome everybody to Risepreneurs. You know, this interview took a while for us to get, but I'm glad we got it. Shola, when we first started Risepreneurs, like we got to get Uti. She will be great for this thing, and I was like, well, let's make it happen. And I know our schedule's been busy, but we've finally been able to get you on, and I can't wait for this episode to drop. So the world already knows you, but so the U.S. all my U.S. people can get to know you now.
Yay! Awesome.
So let's start off like this. But for everybody who does not know who you are or not familiar with the work that you do, who is Uti?
Wow. That's such a
and you could go as deep and as wide and as far as you want. I know it's loaded, but take it wherever your heart wants to take it to. This here it's afternoon. I'm not sure what time is it in Lagos.
It's 8:00 at night. It's past 8 at night.
All
The
right.
day's
Well,
done.
so wherever your heart takes you to with that question at 8 o'clock at night, Lagos time, who is UT?
Wow. You should have prepped me to say I was gonna do a full-on intro. um, so yeah, Uti is quintessentially Nigerian. Uti loves life, loves everything. So my view really about myself is I'm a talker, I'm a doer. So I like to put my money where my mouth is. I really like the sound of my own voice, so this is perfect. um, so yeah, so I mean, literally, my passion is media. My passion is using our voices to make a change. We have so many stories to tell, and as Africans, as Nigerians, a lot of the stories that we see, and this is particularly why I like the opportunity to come onto Risepreneurs, because the narrative is a little one-sided about Africa, and people who haven't been to Africa sometimes will see the wrong side of Africa and not understand what a treasure Africa is. Not to say we don't have our challenges, trust me, we do. But it is an amazing place filled with amazing people who can do great things with very little opportunities. So I chose to live in Africa, chose to come back to Nigeria after nearly 20 years in the UK. And that was because I've always seen Nigeria as glass half full. And I see the opportunities and the potential everywhere. Sad to say that, it's not as far, it's not where it should be, but it's still in a very great place, and it still offers a lot of opportunities for people who are willing and able to see them. And that's certainly how I position myself. And I use the media a lot to share, my thoughts. I don't think that I'd ever go into politics, but I think that it's important that the media is such a powerful tool to be able to talk to people, to shape ideas, to shape thoughts. And that's really that's what drives me. So whether it's on radio, analyzing newspaper headlines, whether it's on TV talking about topical issues that affect Nigerians, I just really believe in the power of my voice. And being able to use that to start conversations that will get people thinking, that will hopefully get people doing and taking action to get us to, the Nigeria of our dreams, for us to really be able to see and actualize the potentials that this great country has. So in a nutshell, that's it.
Yeah. Oh man, that was beautifully said, beautifully well done. I loved every single part of it, and I agree. Like, I think media plays such a strong role in our perception of, how we see each other, how society see each other. I think I was talking to somebody from the UK, and they gave a representation of what they thought blacks in America was really like, and the picture they painted to me was the narrative of all what they see in these gangster movies and so forth, and poverty. And although there's that, there's also blacks and Africans doing very well for themselves in business and so forth.
It's so interesting that you say that. It's that whole danger of the single story. So I have a friend at the moment. She's on holiday in Vegas. And she says to me, every time I go to the mall, I see African Americans coming out with tons of bags from Gucci, from Prada. And she's like, this isn't what I was expecting. Like, she says, I understand, and I'm used to seeing Asians because that's sort of more what we see in the UK. But she seemed genuinely surprised. And I'm like, no, African Americans are doing well. It's not the whole, like you said, gangster story narrative that you see. There are African Americans who are doing really well. So I think that it really is that whole idea that people need to experience and broaden their horizons, because if you leave it to the media, and it's one-sided, then that's all you're ever going to know. And that's what Africa goes through. People think it's people who are looking to live on $1 a day. So if that's all you've seen on TV, then that's what it is.
Yeah. And there's that, when you said danger of a single story, you reminded me of, what's the young lady from
Chimamanda?
She did a TED Talk.
Yes, Chimamanda. Yeah. That's where I got it as well. That was such an awesome talk for me. It really was, because she hit the nail on the head. She's a bit more aggressive is not the right word, but she's really like that. It seems like, I don't want to say angry as well, but she's very focused on that narrative.
Very focused on that narrative and making sure that people understand how dangerous that narrative could be. But I love the way she put the story and gave us
something
that
memorable.
a different lens and something
Yeah.
memorable to see it. Me and Shola, we often have these conversations and debates, and I'm curious to know what you think about it, because I feel that, and I love the fact that you went back home to Africa, because I feel like Africa has so much potential as well. If
Mm,
Africa could come together, right?
absolutely.
It has one of the highest GDPs. Um, People take so much from Africa, from its natural resources to its gold, to its diamonds, to its labor,
Mm,
and paint Africa as this poor place. But I believe if Africa could come on under one currency, it would literally be the most powerful nation because of
yeah.
the
Mm.
or up there at least. What's your take on that?
So, I mean, I think there's value there in having a stronger African Union. I mean, in West Africa, we have ECOWAS and, there's free travel, like, and all of that. But because with Africa, and because we've sort of seen what happened in the EU,
Hmm.
where people then have to deal with regional laws and policies, and particularly in the financial space. If we take, for instance, what happened in Greece with the EU and how certain countries were having to constantly be bailed out. So, if we talk
Hmm.
about a single currency in Africa, that becomes my worry because Africa is it's so broad, right? There's so many countries who are not as wealthy. So the wealthy countries are very few. So whilst in Europe you have a lot more countries, the balance is a bit more equitable than it is here in Africa. And then one of the
Hmm.
problems that we also have in Africa is there's sadly there's a lot of greed, but that's obviously because of a prolonged period of people having poverty. So if you've been poor, if your entire family's been poor, and then you get into an opportunity where you can make money, then if you're not someone who's got really strong integrity, it's possible, and that's what happens sadly, is people think this is my opportunity, I've arrived, I'm going to take everything I can get. um, and that sort of, it's a snowball effect. So if you were to put that into play in a single currency, I'm not sure if that would work, because I think
Hmm.
Africans are at that point, where I feel, okay, so let me not say Africans, let me stick with Nigerians. I often say that Nigeria is like a house full of 2-year-olds.
Hmm.
And if you leave the house and leave them home alone, they're likely to burn the house down. So it so it feels like, that house of 2-year-olds, even though you've got the best kind of 2-year-olds in the world, they've got all the talent, they've got all the skills, but they still need a really strong parent to make sure that they stay on the straight, they don't burn the house down. So in that
Hmm.
sense, you find that even, and that's probably the main problem we have with Nigerians, is with Nigeria, is the politicians. The fact that the decisions that are made aren't made for the greater good, they're selfish. So how do you move forward? So imagine if you then put, however many states in Africa or countries in Africa together, and you have that same mindset, because it's not unique to Nigeria. It's an African problem. If you've seen the news, the president in Chad died yesterday on the front line, and today, in fact, since yesterday, I've been following the story. His son has been put into power in an interim military regime, and then it's become, they've had to close the borders, they've had to suspend the constitution, they've done all of that. But then if
Wow.
you think about it, if it was in a different country where politics and power wasn't a do or die affair, it would be, this is a succession. There's a vice president, there's something, he's sworn in, we move on. But this turns into full on blood and guts and war when it shouldn't be.
Wow.
So I think that if you put that together, we're not at the point yet where I think that we can sustain that kind of single currency union type thing. We have to
Hmm.
build up to it. So if we had smaller groups, regional groups like we have with the West African states, that could work. Maybe not necessarily in a single currency, but for instance, we've got the free trade agreement that went live last year actually. So those kinds of
Yeah.
things where you can sort of make cross-border trade, and services, that kind of thing, and get it flowing, that would definitely
Mm.
work. And then maybe build ourselves up. So as we pull more and more countries up, in terms of increasing their GDP and getting their economies going, then you can start to talk about a single currency. And probably do the same thing the EU did, not let everyone in at the same time, but set thresholds that they have to meet, and then they can join the single currency. If not, it'll just be too much of a burden on a few countries.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, then I'm curious to know your thoughts on what you think about things like Bitcoin and all these different currencies and decentralizing it. Because I've seen, different countries in Africa use this as their way of, or it's allowed some empowerment to certain
Yeah.
groups and people to take control of their own destiny and wealth. So I guess what would be your thoughts on that then?
So my first thought is Uti went to sleep on cryptocurrency and alternative currencies. Like literally Bitcoin, when it first came out, was like a thing. Like, yeah, I knew that there was something called Bitcoin and that was it. I literally didn't connect with that entire space until last year. As soon as I heard what Bitcoin was worth, I was like, what? When did that happen? And then I'm like, I need to do a bit of research. And then I find there's altcoin, there's Dogecoin, there's all these different things. And I'm thinking, when did that happen? Like, I feel like I went to sleep and woke up and there's all sorts of things going on. But the reality of it for me is that people will try to find alternatives when the old isn't working. I don't think that it's worth trying to discontinue the old. I think you just go and create the new, and eventually the old just realizes, we're out of game and everybody's moved on to the new. And that's what's happening. So the markets that we have now, the entire global financial market or financial world isn't working for everyone. Some people are marginalized. Some people don't have as much access, don't have as much opportunity. And really, it opens up the world in a different way. So for me, I think it's awesome. And I know that regulation, so for instance, here in Nigeria, it was banned a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. Banks weren't allowed.
I think that's a greed play from up above in your government. That's all that is to
so
maintain
it could be greed, it could just be confusion, because what we tend to find here is, of course, what you don't understand, you just try to kill it. So where everyone is trying to understand it and embrace it, and considering the fact that Nigeria is a major player Africa-wise in the tech space. So it would be in our best interest to actually get on board this thing and get on board early and drive the story. I mean, we have our first unicorn company last year. What am I talking about? Is it last year or this year? This year, actually.
So you're talking about Paystack?
Paystack, exactly. So we're starting to show up in the tech space as being a major player in Africa. So why not get to the front of it? And Africa has major payment challenges. That's why companies like Paystack, what's the other one? Flutterwave. These companies are all doing well because they are serving a market and a need that is huge. 200 million people, or 200 plus million people in Nigeria all need to make payments. It doesn't have to be cash. We need to come away from cash. Cash is expensive. So these kinds of currencies are the things that we need to be looking at. And literally, when you see how the currencies are going now, this is where our governments need to be going. I think the other day, was it Walmart is trying to buy and start to use it as currency. So it's one of those things where even I have had to wake up and start to pay attention. So if the people are paying attention, then certainly the government needs to be paying attention. The finance people need to be paying attention. We just need to understand it. But it's such a world of opportunity, in my opinion.
And it was always so interesting to me, a place that's so developed like Nigeria has major payment issues. My virtual assistant works in Nigeria, and I couldn't use PayPal. I couldn't use so many different things that I could use to virtually pay people here in Nigeria because of
the policy,
rules, regulations, policies, or how much she would get taxed. She wouldn't even get most of it. And I'm like, wow, this is such a burden for somebody from the U.S. who wants to do business in Nigeria, and that's going to deter people from wanting to do business, which is only going to hurt the Nigerian economy.
I mean, ease of doing business is a huge thing here. So the vice president has sort of championed that all the time that he's been in office. But I mean, I often say to people, doing business in Nigeria is an extreme sport. You really have to have, nerves of steel. You have to have guts. It's almost like a wing and a prayer, but it is highly, highly rewarding. So it's kind of like a fine balance.
Right.
But yeah, it is difficult to do business here. You really do, have to think about it. One change in policy and your business could be wiped out. I mean, we woke up one day and the government said close every bank account that's ever traded in cryptocurrency, and then the bank started to close accounts because if they don't, they get fined. So
Right.
things literally can go from 0 to 100 in a half a second.
If you can make it in business in Nigeria, you can make it in business anywhere.
You
That's
can
what I
make it
say.
make it in business is even a long thing. If you can live and survive in Nigeria, you can live anywhere in the world and thrive.
And thrive, not just
Yep.
survive,
Mhm.
thrive.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm up to the challenge, and
Yeah.
I do believe that there's a bright future.
We have to. We have to be able to believe that it is, and we have to be able to see it. Like I said, you could choose glass half empty, but glass half
Yeah.
full is so much better. So why not? Because I mean, the opportunities are endless.
That.
Mm.
Now let's double back just a little bit because I want to talk about your career because your career interestingly is very well, not I would say exactly similar, but I wanted to start out in radio, but I didn't get
Mhm.
I did start off a little bit and then I left radio because
Yeah.
here how it's controlled in America, like
Mhm.
I don't actually have a voice. The radio company owns
Mm.
you.
Mm.
Like, and you have to do what they say and play what they want to play, and that's not what I thought I was going to be doing in radio.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
thought I was going to be actually using my voice
Yeah.
for whatever it is I want to bring attention to, and then I've managed to transition back to what I'm doing now, which is podcasting, which is a different media format that allows me to use my voice. All that to say is I like to show people the career directories of different people, and it's not where you start, it's where you kind of finish, and
Yeah.
the lessons you learn along the way. The question is, what was your first job?
My God. Very, 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 very first job was when I was 16.
Yeah.
And that was working in a store that sold shoes. That was I think I was in college at the time.
Uh,
So not what you call college in America, but like there's a college in the
University or
UK. In the UK, it's college is what you do between high school and university. So
uh,
yeah, so it's what you would do
that
between
would
high
just be high
school and
school for
college.
us.
Yeah, so for you it'd be high school, but for us you kind of get to sixth form, you're done, and then you do 2 years in college, and then you go off to university. So that was sort of my first job. I was 16, and yeah, that was fun. I was just talking to people selling shoes. I'm a shoe addict, so it was the perfect job for me. um, so I really like the sound of my voice. I really like talking to people. So I have a God-given talent for talking.
Yeah.
I really, really like talking, and I'm not one of those people that says I don't like how I sound. I literally sit and listen to, like I'll record a voice note for someone, and then I'll keep playing it over and over, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with you? So that was my very first job. But if I talk about professionally, so yes, whilst I do media as well, we still have to pay the bills. And in that space, I work in customer experience. So if I talk about my sort of very first job in that space, then that would have been also very many years ago in a company. It's actually now under Richard Branson. It's like the Virgin Group. Was it like
Really?
a TV, like a cable TV company? Yeah. So that's yeah. So that kind of thing. It's now Virgin TV. I don't even know if it still exists, actually. I haven't followed up on that, but that was a very long time ago. And yeah, so customer
Is that where you
experience.
got your start in media? Is that where you got your start in
So
media?
my start in media. So media was my very first stint on radio was at 17. So I started doing hospital radio in the UK. So like charity, the hospital radio station. So I started doing that. Throughout college, I was on radio, the uni radio stations. And then when I moved back to Nigeria, the plan was to go straight into media. But when I looked to, over here, radio stations, TV stations, media isn't high paying. But it does give you, wonderful exposure. And like I said, if you're you're more concerned about having a voice, then it's a great place to be. So I came back into Nigeria, went straight into financial services, into banking and doing customer experience. But then I started to do radio on the side. So my entire media career has always been almost like a side gig, making sure that I do get the opportunity. So been on radio, and so doing both now, actually doing radio and TV.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's pretty much, yeah, in a nutshell. So I've done more radio than I've done TV, but yeah, anything media. Like I say, point me at a camera or point me at a mic, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. Which one do you like better, radio or TV? Do you
Radio.
have a preference?
Radio,
Radio? Why
definitely
radio?
radio. So I think that because on the vain side, like I said, I like the sound of my voice. Uh, but I think with radio, there's just a lot more engagement. So even though you're
Hmm.
talking, radio tends to have a lot more of interaction, call-ins, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that at heart, I'm a radio girl. TV is just that thing where, and again with radio also, well, I guess you can stream now live whilst you're in the studio, but I also like to not have to glam up like you
Yeah.
have to for TV. So it's a whole
Yeah.
production. Like when I'm on TV, it takes me like the show's live at 8, and I'll probably start to get ready at about 5. Makeup will take a couple of an hour and a half at least. So yeah,
Uh,
so definitely TV. I'm sorry, definitely
okay.
radio.
Definitely radio. All right, understandable, understandable. Let's talk about advice you would give to someone who's hearing this and it's like, you know what? I like the sound of my voice too. I wanna get into the radio or television business. What's some advice you would give to someone like that who wants to start a career in your industry?
So would this be specific to Nigeria or just in
Yeah, you
general?
can. Well, in general,
Yeah. So
you can give me the Nigerian side if it's different from like the general.
um so I guess in general, if you're going to go into media, then sort of know who you are. Um, you can't have a voice unless you're speaking from a genuine place. You can't be speaking somebody else's truth if you're going to have a voice. So if you're going to have a voice, you have to know who you are. You have to be strong because you can't sort of not necessarily not be afraid, but you have to be somewhat fearless to be able to sort of take a stance and stick to it. But I think that you also need to get into it as early as possible. So literally most radio stations or TV stations will start you out as an intern. So you want to do that whilst you're pretty young. You don't want to be, I mean, you can, but some people do podcasting and then a station comes calling. So that's a different route to take it now that you can. But I think for me, it would be know what you're about. Most TV stations or radio stations, the first day you turn up, they're going to ask you what matters to you. Is it gender issues? Is it politics? You have to have something that resonates with you and something that you stand for. So that would be the thing to think about for me really going into it, because you can, like you said, go into a radio station and not have a voice. You can have somebody else own you, and then you're just there saying whatever they want you to say, which is what is typical here. I met someone once and I said, oh, I'm in media, and he goes, well, everything in media here is paid for anyway, so I don't pay any attention to it. And that really stung, that hurt, because I thought I do a lot of
Mm,
work, I work really hard, but there are people
mhm,
who are out there who have that impression because a lot of it does get paid for. And that's the truth.
mm.
But there are, genuine sources, and that's who you want to be, and that's how you want people to recognize your voice as a source of truth.
Yeah.
You can try and be a true north.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that, and that's
Yeah.
the whole reason why we created this platform to tell stories of us, be the true north to the voices that speak for us and speak through us and tell our stories, like we like our and we allow us to tell our stories the way they should and way we wanted them to be told.
Mm.
So I appreciate you saying that. What do you think? What's one good lesson life has taught you in your many journeys from the UK to here and in media?
I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned is really to live for yourself.
Hmm.
I think that I grew up watching people really not live their lives because they were concerned about what people thought. And it sounds like life is really like, even if you live to be 80 or 90, it sounds like it's a really long time, but it's not. I
Hmm.
turned 40 nearly a month ago, and I keep thinking, I remember being five.
What?
I know, right? I remember being 5 years old so clearly. And now I'm 40 and I'm like, how am I 40? How is it possible that I'm 40? So life goes really, really quickly. So the idea
Mm-hmm.
is you have to be true to yourself. You have to be ready to do the things that I always say for me personally, the only two things that matter to me in anything that I do is it's true to myself. And if I stand in front of God, I'm Christian. If I stand in front of God on Judgment Day, I can say, you know what? I did that. That was my choice. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll deal with the consequences. So everything that I do in life is those are my two beacons. It has to be legal. It has to be right. And I can hand on heart take whatever consequences that come with it. So for me, that's the biggest lesson, because I think a lot of the times when people are driven either by what people will say or by fear. And I mean, I battled with fear for a long time. I've only January of 2020 was when I made the decision that failure would no longer define me. So I was so afraid to fail, I wouldn't try. And that probably is the best decision I ever made in my life. I've done so much more in, the last 15 months thereabouts since January of 2020 than I did in the rest of my life, just because I realized that I could fail and it didn't define who I was. Because before that, I would be afraid to fail because I thought if I failed, then I was a failure. Like Uti was a failure. It wasn't that I failed at doing something. It was that I was a failure. And that's such a huge distinction to make, because you have to realize that one failure doesn't define your entire existence. You can try to cook something and burn it right now, and you can toss it out, wash the pan, start again, and make the exact same meal and get it perfect. And neither one says you're not a great cook. So once you're not afraid to fail, then you really can it's leaps and bounds. Totally changed my life. So yeah, I gave you two actually. So don't be afraid to fail and be true to yourself.
Those are both two amazing things, and I want to dive a little deeper into both of those. First, let me say this: congratulations on turning 40.
Yay! It's the best thing.
I was gonna say, for those who are listening, you guys can't see this, but this woman, I would have guessed that she was in her early 30s or somewhere in her 30s, just because I was like, oh, her maturity level. So I don't know what kind of skin products she's using or what's going on in Nigeria, but congratulations, you look great.
Thank you.
Hope life keeps blessing you. Now, you mentioned January 2020. Is that significant turning point when you came up with, no longer allowing failure to rule you and being true to yourself? What's so significant about January 2020? What happened in life? Tell me the story.
So I'm a very reflective person. I think that every person is made up of the sum of their experiences, and because of that, my experiences are very important to me. So I often sit back and reflect on how things have gone. And I'm not one for, start of the year, make, New Year's resolutions and that kind of stuff. That's not really my thing. But I do like to sit and take stock at the end of the year and say, you know what, how did this year go? What worked? What didn't work? And not necessarily, it's almost like building a roadmap for the year, right? And you think, everything that I've done has got me to this point, and I'm happy to be here. But I also know that I want so much more. I'm so far away from where I want to be. And then I asked myself, well, what's keeping me from that? And one of the things that I realized was the fact that I was extremely risk averse. And why was I risk averse? Because I was afraid of failing. And I tend to ask myself, so in those moments, I act like I'm 2 years old and I keep saying, why? So I said, so why are you afraid of failing? Well, if I fail, then it means I'm a failure. But, are you really a failure? Think about it. So I had to go really granular to sort of understand where that fear of failing came from and how I'd sort of wrapped failure into who I was. And then, when I was able to break that apart, I realized, failing has nothing to do with who you are. Even if you fail, you'd still be Uti. It wouldn't change your name to failure. It would just be that you failed at something, So that kind of, it was the thing that stood out the most for me when I looked back at 2019. There were opportunities that I could have taken that I didn't take because I was just afraid to say, what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't? And then there were opportunities where I kind of started and I went, oh, it's too big. It's not going to work. It's going to fail. And then I talk myself out of it. So I just realized how much I was standing in my own way at achieving some really great things. And I think I also struggle because, and I say this with extreme humility, I'm good at a lot of things. And because of that, I kind of find that things come to me really easily. So I feel like I should be doing so much more. So when I'm not, I get this really strong cloud over my head saying, you've got all these skills, you've got all these talents, but you're not using them. But then you realize that you're also human. I mean, no matter what you do, there's 24 hours in a day. You're not going to make more. And you don't want to live your life chasing, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And then you're not actually living. You're just doing one thing after the other. So learning to sort of, at that point in time, I just said, you know what do I want to achieve in 2020? What do I want to look back at the year? Of course, I didn't know there was a pandemic coming at the time, but what do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? And the one thing I wanted to get out of 2020 was just to embrace failure, to say, you know what, I'd rather say I tried, I failed. I look back on the experience, I learn, I adapt, and I grow. And that has really changed it for me. We couldn't do as much as we wanted in 2020, but I did. I had some amazing wins in 2020 that I'm so proud of.
Yeah, I love that. I think we all have our challenges with failure, especially Blacks, Africans, Nigerians in general. And me and Shola, sometimes we joke and talk about this, that sometimes, growing up Nigerian, there's a special kind of relationship that some of us Nigerians have to failure because of how we are raised. Your parents, you are expected to get the best grades. You are expected to be great at so many things when they send you to whether it's university or to study abroad or wherever. There's this expectation, and if you come back less than, what is this? Why? What is this B?
Yep.
What is this? And we don't know how to process failure in the right way.
Absolutely.
Because of this pressure to be absolutely perfect or the best. And so we have a different type of, do you feel like part of that plays a role in why we have a hard time with failure and embracing failure?
I think it absolutely does, because we are, so it's like the book, I don't know if you've read, it's by Carol Dweck, about mindsets. And if you have a growth mindset, we aren't raised to embrace the learning process more than the outcome. We are simply raised to focus on the outcome, and the outcome is be the best. Nothing is acceptable. So you could get 9 A's and a B, and the B is going to be the focus. It's not going to be great, you got 9 A's, and next time you can do great and you can get 10 A's, it'll be, why did you get a B here? What happened? So totally that's what happens, and then they ask you, anyone who's Nigerian will be able to relate to this, say, the person that got 10 A's, does the person have 2 heads? So, so those are the things that you grew up hearing. So it really does make you sort of doubt yourself a lot when you fail, because you think, I'm such a disappointment. I've done this thing, and you almost don't feel like you can't recover from it because it defines you. The failure almost becomes you, and you have to sort of tell yourself that, you know what, I have failed at this one thing. I have to be able to ask myself, why did I fail? And then what can I learn from that failure, adapt and grow and be better the next time? But you certainly have to go at it again. But because our parents have always said to us, you must be the best, you must strive. I had a conversation. One of the things that's really important to me is mentoring young people. And I had a conversation with a young girl, I think it was yesterday actually. And she said to me, oh, I was looking on your LinkedIn profile and I see that you did this course. And I'd like you to tell me about the course. And I said, well, first of all, why are you interested in this course? Do you want to do it because, as we do in this part of the world, we like to acquire certificates. You will find someone go from uni, they'll go do a first degree, they'll come out, they'll do a master's, they'll go do an MBA, and then the next thing they're doing all these professional certifications and papers, and then you see someone's CV and they've got all these things. And then you meet the
Mm-hmm.
person, you go, okay, so where's your actual experience? And then they draw a blank. So I'm like, why is it that you want to do this? And she says, oh, I'm interested in this, I've graduated, I don't have any certifications. I'm like, how does this fit into your career? What are your dreams? What are your objectives? She didn't have an answer because all she had been raised to know was I have to have qualifications. I just need to keep acquiring and amassing qualifications. But then you're in a job right now. What are you interested in? So I can understand your first college degree at undergrad. You go in and you're not really sure who you are. You haven't found yourself. So when you come out from undergrad, take a break, get a job, figure out who you are, think about what I want to do in maybe the next 12 to 24, 48 months maybe, and then go after that and be strategic about it. But, you find that we definitely are our programming. And this programming is not just for Nigerians, it's Black people in general. Because I remember watching a video by, what's her name? Diana Ross's daughter, the actress. I can't remember now.
I know who you're talking about.
And she did a video once. I think it was a TED Talk. I can't remember, but I remember watching this video, and she talked about the curse for Black people, for Black women, of carriage and marriage, and the fact that a Black woman would never feel fulfilled until she got married and had a baby. So marriage and carriage of child. And I thought that was so profound because I remember when I turned 30, I fell off a cliff. Literally 30, not married, and Black and Nigerian. It was a church matter. It's time to pray and fast. So I literally took myself on holiday on my 30th birthday. I sat on the beach in Gambia wondering what was wrong with me. Because in my mind, I thought by 27, I'd be married. By 30, I'd have my first child, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sitting on the beach and I ask myself, Uti, why do you want to get married? Do you want to get married because you truly want to get married? Or do you want to get married because you've been raised to say, you got to go to school, get a degree, get a job, get married? That's the acceptable trajectory. But is that what you really want for your life? Now, so many people don't ask that question because we have been programmed. And why I say it's not a Nigerian problem. This is an American woman talking about this. I've had Ghanaian friends, Zimbabwean. We're all the same. As long as the skin has got melanin in it, this thing is strong. The programming is strong. So you have to really think about it and break the chain for yourself because our parents did a good job. The coding was strong.
Yes, they did a good job, and then at least here, and so my situation is unique. My stepdad, who's Nigerian, my mom, who's of American descent. I have both of these programmings culturally in me, and then they send me to a school system that reinforces that in order for you to be successful in America, you need to get a job, a good paying job. You need to have a house by the time you're 30 and a family. Well, not so much for men. We could pass the marriage part, but we have to be able to be a provider by having a good, stable job that's going to get you some type of pension or retirement and buy a house, right? So that you can be a provider. And when I wasn't reaching these things, I had the same epiphany.
Yeah.
And I was working in a company. I remember saying to myself, I'm working in a company that did not care about people. And I was raised to care about people, right? And they was care more about numbers and profit than they did people. And I was like, and the directors and executives, they're all miserable, right? They drink, they do this, they live these lives, don't have healthy households. Life's just a mess, but they're doing good financially, right? And I was like, is this what I want to be? I didn't want to be that. And so I had to sit with myself because I was already unhappy. I was like, why am I doing this, right? This is, I'm not even being true to myself because I'm doing something that that is not me. I don't enjoy doing. Yes, I have a good job. I have degrees, but what if I cannot enjoy it, right? And I can't be who I am. And so when I left that version of the rat race and started doing what I truly wanted to do, and I was true to myself, things started to, and embracing the failure, like you said, things started to take a different shape for my life. And that's when success started to really break in and happiness really started to break through. And so that's why I resonate so much with what you're saying. It's not just a Black problem or a Nigerian problem. It's every melanin problem. and that mindset too of what we can do and what we could believe we can do and who we can be is a problem. So we need to change from that mindset, get that growth mindset, and get rid of these limiting beliefs of what it is that we need to be. So I resonate with all that. I love that. Trying to think where we go next in this conversation. Oh my God, I didn't realize the time. So let's do this. Me, you could probably talk forever. When you think about your industry, the media industry, and what you're building now in entrepreneurship, what do you think the future has in store for your industry?
So I think that the media is such an interesting place because there's all these new formats. You know, we've come away from traditional media. We've come away from, the huge TV stations. We now have new media. We have social media. Look at podcasting. I remember talking about starting a podcast maybe 10 years ago, and it seemed like such a new novel idea. And then today there's a podcast for everything.
Literally.
For literally everything. So I think that media is really such a driver. And it's great that we've kind of decentralized media. So it's no longer about having so few voices. I can't just be a billionaire and go and buy a TV station and then craft the mindset of people. Now there's social media, and, social media really allows you to see the true, you think there are many shades of people, and then you get on social media and you see a comment that is so far away from where your mind is at. You're thinking, how is this a person? So media just has opened up so much in that there's the opportunity now for it to proliferate so quickly. Technology has changed that. So it's given more people a voice. Now, what you're finding is, of course, with the extreme, the more voices you have, the more, what's the best way to put it now? You're going to hear all sorts of things because there's such a huge variety of people, right? So in that sense, I think that there's huge opportunities in the media to be able to educate people, to be able to shine a spotlight and drive awareness of really important issues. So I think that's, for me, is the most exciting part of the future, is that it's no longer that exclusivity. So just the same thing that happened in music industry, where it used to be record labels and now, an artist can just go online and drop their album and that's it. You've cut out the middleman. I think media's done the same thing. So now I can pick up my phone, I can shoot a 30-second, shoot a 1-hour video if I want and go put it on YouTube. And I'll get my voice out there. So that industry has opened up so much. And the worry that I have when I think about it is, how do you control the beast? Because now it's like a hydra-headed monster. You think you shut this one down and then it pops up somewhere else. So I'm so looking forward to what the future holds next. Like this whole concept of virtual reality and VR and all of that would be so interesting in terms of the usage, the applications that you could use it for in the TV space. But the idea is that this is a space, it's an industry that's really opening up. It's a space that's giving people lots of opportunities. Now you don't need all this equipment. You just need to have a mobile phone and you can, go get on with it. So I'm looking forward to where it's going. I like the direction it's going in. I think it's so much opportunity. We have seen the creativity that exists in people. One of the things that really, so for us in Nigeria, what thrives on social media is comedy, is skits. And when I see the things that people create, I think to myself, I would have never thought of that in a billion years. So we're seeing all of that, and these are people who probably would never have had access to a traditional TV station or traditional radio station. But this sort of new media space is giving everybody the opportunity to create their content and put it out there. And there's a market for everyone, no matter how far left or far right it is. You have an audience out there. You just have to find them and they have to find you. So I think that's what I'm most excited about. There's just so much opportunity ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't wait to see what comes of it. And I can't wait to see what it looks like once these new opportunities and removing the middleman, how it elevates people's stories, people's lives, and create even more opportunities from that, right?
More people get to tell their stories. Yeah.
Right. As far as you as a person and your growth. We know January 2020 was a great year for you because you've embraced the failures which have led you to where you're at today, being true to yourself. What does the future look like for UT in 5 years? Where do you see yourself?
So that's such an interesting question because I was only just asking myself that question a few days ago. I try not to. So I have a mantra: is DOT. Is do
Mm-hmm.
one thing every day that gets you closer to where you want to be. I think sometimes for my personality, when I think about the big picture, sometimes it can cause me to shut down. So I try to look micro. I try to keep it close to, what's happening in the next month, what's happening in the next 2 months, what's happening tomorrow. What have you done in the last 24 hours that's getting you closer to where you want to be? So when I say that, then I ask myself, well, where do you want to be? And that's been an interesting question because I don't know that I have answered it as thoroughly. Like I define myself as a laid back perfectionist, which is like, yeah. So the perfectionist in me says, what is that thing? And then the laid back part of me says, hang on, let's just get through the next 24 hours. But I really am focused on the media. I think that I have circled around this space for so long that I am sure this is the space that I want to go to stick to and grow in. So for me, really embracing new media, making sure that I think that every time I think about media, it seems so huge. So I think to myself, who are the people that resonate with me in this space? People like Oprah, people like Christina Amanpour. In Nigeria, we have a lady called Mo Abudu. These are the people who resonate with me in the things that they've done, but those things also seem so huge. Like I think to myself, okay, even if I wanted to set up a station today, where would I find investors? When I start to think like that, my brain starts to shut down. So the future for me really is to keep making sure my immediate goal is to make sure my voice is out there, is to make sure I'm talking about the things that are important to me. That's what drives me. It's being able to create conversations, being able to shine the spotlight on things that are important to me. So that would be in the short term goal to make sure that I'm putting out content that speaks to that. In the long term, I want to become a powerhouse in media. Whether it means that I own, media houses, whether it means that I'm, a huge brand in that space, but that for me is the goal. I really want to take on because I think here we have so many voices, but we don't have like a strong female voice that really everyone can say this is what she stands for, this is who she is. And I really want people to understand that I'm pro Nigerian, I'm pro Africa. I think when we talk about Nigeria, so many people talk about Nigeria in a negative light. And I say to people, I'm pro migration for people to understand that you need to go outside of the shores of Nigeria, broaden your horizons. But when you get those skills, you need to bring them home and come and invest in this country. Nobody's going to build the Nigeria of our dreams. We're going to have to do it ourselves. So if you don't do it, if you don't build it, how are you going to get it? We can't all go abroad. We can't all hop on a plane and go live in America or go live in the UK. Who's going to build Nigeria? Because it's the only country, it's the only one you've got. There's only one Nigeria. And it does have immense opportunities. So if I could get people to see that, if I could get people to see Nigeria in a positive light, and it's not to say the negative isn't there, but it's almost like using the light to chase the shadows away. So how can I shine that spotlight on Nigeria in a way that people can see that we have to do the work? We can't all run away. We have to build this country one brick at a time, one Nigerian at a time.
Yes, I agree with that. Uti, the next Nigeria's Oprah.
Yeah, that'd be me. Absolutely.
All right,
Definitely.
so man, I so many more things I want to discuss, but we're gonna have to save it for another time, and don't forget about us little guys like risepreneurs when we build this big media.
We're on the journey together. We're on the journey together. I really love what you're doing with risepreneurs though, because I think we talk about Africans in the diaspora, but I think the world needs to see us in the right light, and you're absolutely doing your bit to shine the right light on us. So absolutely
Thank you.
love it.
I appreciate that. So to close us out, what projects are you currently working on, and where can people find you? Give us all the social medias, website, all that
Right.
stuff that you're working on, and where
Okay,
we can
so
connect.
easiest places to find me. I'm so not big on social media. I should be, but yeah, I haven't got the time. So best places to find me. So I'm currently working on a new a new radio show, called Metro Life, and that's going to showcase the best of Lagos. I think
Okay.
so much is said in the negative, but this is an amazing city. It's one of the most amazing places to live in the world.
Okay.
There's just so many amazing experiences you can have here that you probably can't have anywhere else. And I'd like to, like I said, shine the right spotlight. So I want to share my love of Lagos with the world. So I hope that will go live at some point in May,
Okay.
if my schedule lets up. So that will be the next thing that I'm working on. I mean, I'm currently on my the TV show is called Ways, and that you can watch on Facebook, on Twitter, I think on YouTube. The station is called Plus TV Africa, and it's live Monday to Friday. So it's live weekdays at 8 p.m. West African time. And so I'm usually on the show. It's like a roundtable discussion, and I'm on 2 times a week, different days, usually on a Thursday and another day. So that's a great place to see me. We have all the old episodes on YouTube. So if you just search for Plus TV Africa, and then you can sort of look through the playlist, and there's one for Ways, and we've got all our episodes on there. Really interesting stuff, really, really good conversation with really smart women. Social media handles, I am Savanti, IAMSYVAMTI on Twitter and on Instagram. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And then if you didn't get it, don't worry. I'll have her email it to me so I can put all of that into the show notes,
Awesome.
and you guys can check it out.
Yeah, reach out.
And make sure you support. Reach out, support. Uti, it's been a pleasure once again. Thank you so much for just sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your passion, and your story with us. Any last words for the people before we go off air?
Last words. I mean, I've really enjoyed my time on the show. Thank you for having me. I would say just be true to yourself. Celebrate what makes you you, what makes you unique. And if you are Black, please love yourself, because we are amazing.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I couldn't have said it better myself. All right. This has been another edition of RisePreneurs. Check us out on social media, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Rise Urban Nation.
Thank you for taking the journey.
Be sure to like, comment, and smash that subscribe button. And stay connected with Terrell on and off the show. Follow at Rise Urban Nation on all platforms.
Do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money. Let the money chase you.